Welcome to another exciting episode of Many Hats of Business, the podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Gordon, and I'm thrilled to have you with us today. On this podcast, we explore the realities of business and the many hats we have to wear. I'll be speaking to some fantastic business owners about their journey to where they are today in the hope that they inspire you to go through the tough times so that you get to relish the rewards having your own business can bring. Before we jump in, a quick reminder to subscribe, rate and leave a review if you enjoy what you hear. Your support means the world to us and helps Many Hats of Business, the podcast, reach even more curious minds like yours. Alright, let's get started. Get ready to be entertained, informed and inspired. This is Many Hats of Business, the podcast. Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Many Hats of Business, the podcast. I'm joined today by Andrea Rainsford and we have a big one for you today. We're talking about the sheer resilience needed in business, the importance of looking after yourself in business, freedom and boundaries, and the all-important making more sales and money. We're glad to have you here today and I hope you enjoy the episode. Hi Andrea, thanks for joining us today. If you want to introduce yourself to our listeners, that'd be fantastic.
Morning. Same morning. Could be afternoon. Could be evening. Could be any time of day when you're watching this, couldn't it, really? So, hello. I'm Andrea Rainsford. My business is Andrea Rainsford. Get my name. Creating Business Growth. And yeah, I've been in business for 10 years this year, which, I don't look old enough, really, do I? I look like a mere baby. Kind of been running a bit for 10 years, isn't it? These days, I can't talk about the stat on every single episode, but we do talk about it on every single episode too. A lot of businesses do not make it past the first year. So to make it today, you're in the few, aren't you? I think it's not for the faint-hearted, is it? Let's be honest. And I think that you've got to have a resilience streak a mile wide, haven't you? And I think
it's funny actually, because when I'm titling them so far, I could have actually titled every single episode Resilience in Business. So it's like, oh my, I renamed the podcast Resilience in Business because that's what you need.
I think it's okay to throw toys at the pram. It's okay to think I can't do this. It's okay to think everybody's doing better than me. And you've just got to keep getting back up and you've got to stop looking sideways. You've got to stop looking at what everybody else is doing, and you've got to look at your own brilliance, and you've got to look at your own, your own unique experience, because every single one of us has got a unique experience, haven't we? We've worked, most of us have worked in some form of job before we start running our own business, and we've got experience and qualifications, and when you bring them together, they're always unique to you, and you're different from everybody else. So I worked in corporate in a global business development for a very long time, and then I retrained, gained a degree, and I've got a computing science degree. So I've got a really unique skill set that I bring to my business. But we all have. When we sit down and look at it on paper, we're very, very different. We all bring different things to the table, don't we?
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's interesting because obviously you're business mentoring now, as I am. And when you're doing that sort of work, the relationship between you and your client is really important anyway, isn't it? As well, of that thing of, regardless of the skill set, you've really got to gel because they're taking advice from you and telling you their kind of biggest fears as well, aren't they? It's a lot you've got to really trust the person, haven't you?
I think, especially at the moment, and I think we're recording this on the 20th of March, and I did a post this morning on my Facebook account that basically said that 2 years ago, on average, it was 10 touch points to make a sale. So somebody needed to see you in various different places, whether that's social media, email, YouTube, TikTok, in person 10 times before they then decided to buy from you. And at the moment, that's averaging 20. And that's how different we are to 2-3 years ago. And that's why people have got to know, like, and trust us. My post this morning was basically about sell, please don't. Because all I see in my feed on social media, on LinkedIn, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, is people buy my masterclass, buy this, buy that, buy the other. And yes, sales posts do have their place. But if people are not getting to know the person behind the scenes, if they don't know you, your values, your purpose, what you're about, what your experience is, then they're just not going to buy from you at the moment. And that's, you know, a really, really key point that you're making. If you're in business mentoring like we are, if they can't get to know us and they don't know, like, and trust us and know that we're going to help them to get to where they want to be, they're not going to come into our world and they're not going to click on that call to action, are they?
No, exactly. And you've got 20,000 followers on LinkedIn, so we'd like to think you kind of up there as know what you're talking about, at least.
You know, a lot of people have asked me how it happens, and I will tell you that story. So it's a very long and convoluted story, so I apologise to everybody listening, but I had a stroke at 32. So I worked far too hard in corporate. I used to do an 80-hour week. I was flying all over the world and living my best life and thinking that, you know, I was the bee's knees. I'd got the house, the car, the handbag, and I was loving it. And I'd met the man who I was going to marry, and we did get married, but I was really poorly when we got married, and I had the stroke the year after we got married. So my poor husband has only really, most of our married life has taken care of me, and I feel so sad about that, really, that, you know, it wasn't what he signed up for. But if he was here, he'd tell you that he loves me, and that's, you know, you take care of people that you love. But
he sounds like a good egg.
He is a good egg. Yeah, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. It took me a very long time to recover. So I was in a hospital bed for 7 years. I think it was after about 7 years, I was still in my wheelchair, but I was starting to get back into some form of normality, and I needed to see if my brain still worked. So I went back to university and did a degree in computing science, which
just
everybody thought
that it did.
Everybody thought I was mental. Ian was like, please don't. Ian was like, you know, are you well enough? Are you up to this? And yeah, I think so. My point is, I didn't set out to set up a business. I didn't set out to be a business owner. This came about when I graduated with my degree, and then I was like, well, what am I going to do with it? So I was 40 the year I graduated. So it was 10 years ago last year that I graduated, because I was 50 last year. And yeah, and I set my business up the year after. So my business is 10 years old this year. And it was basically a means to an end, because I couldn't go back to corporate. I still wasn't walking. I still lacked energy. I still couldn't cope with doing a full day's work.
So you
and then
really needed the flexibility that having your own business kind of just offer, or can I think done properly.
I think Ian was earning, and I didn't, and obviously I was on shed loads of benefits because I couldn't work. And I went to them and said, I don't know whether it's changed, but at that time, if you were on benefits, they could give you access to work, basically. So you could get paid for going in and learning a new skill or doing a certain amount of hours a week in a business. But I couldn't do that. So I phoned the DWP and said, look, I can't go out to a business, but will you let me work a certain amount of hours from home and still have benefits, but, you know, start my own business? Because I needed to feel like I was useful, and I needed to feel like my brain worked and I had something to give to society again. And so the first year I worked from my bed. I never saw a client. I had my laptop in my bed, and I used to pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down. And that's what the first 2 or 3 years looked like. And I hid. And coming back to the 20,000 followers, I hid from the world because I thought nobody's going to want to work with me because my brain's damaged. And I thought, if the world knows my story and they know I've had a stroke and that I'm running a business from my bed, they're going to think I'm a complete joke. And I didn't tell a soul.
And then, isn't it? Because I would think, as a person looking in, I'd think exactly the opposite. You know, you're not a joke, are you? Because you're doing exactly, it's amazing what you were doing. And like that mindset stuff's really difficult, isn't it? To get past that. Because I can see how you could think that in your position, but anyone looking in would be going, wow, what an inspiration.
You don't think you are, though, do you? Because so many people have said it to me. And I said, well, you've got two choices. You fight or you lie down and die. Yeah. And that's what's on the table. I'll tell you a little bit more about the story in a minute, but the 20,000 followers came about because one day I just said to myself, I can't hide anymore. I can't. I've just got to put it out there I've got to tell the world, and I need to free myself from this stiffness of trying to be corporate, of trying to be professional, whatever those words mean to you, and not tell the truth and not be authentic. And one day I just did a video, and I can remember it as clear as day. I did a video, I told my story, I told what happened to me, and I'm not going to lie, I went and hid in the cupboard. I actually got in the cupboard, and Ian went, "What are you doing?" I went, I can't look. And he was like, "Well, you've got to come back out at some point." And I went, "No, I can't." And I hid in the cupboard, and he went, "Are you stopping in there forever?"
You know, I'm seriously considering it, to be honest.
Are you going to face the world at some point? And I came back out to 100,000 views.
Wow. And that was on LinkedIn.
And that was when I started, because the 20,000 didn't happen overnight. Yeah. It was the fact that I'd freed myself from the cocoon that I'd put myself in, that I've got to be this, I've got to be that, I've got to be the other, I can't say this, I can't say that. And then once I freed myself and I realised that my job is to share the good, bad and the ugly of my journey. And that's what I've done for the last 10 years. And I think that I hit 27,000 at one point. And then there was a period, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, where LinkedIn had a cull of all these accounts that were not being used, and they weren't. And it shot back down to 20, I think it was 19.
Yeah, 20,000, that's still a lot, isn't it?
I think that I'm grateful every day. I'm not going to lie, I am. And I say that every day. I say that I'm grateful that people are interested in what I've got to say. I'm grateful that they show up, that they are kind. They're not all kind, and we'll probably come on to that in a minute. But
say that it doesn't come without its problems, though, does it? Having that amount of followers, because I think, obviously, like you said, you put out the good, the bad, the ugly. You tell everyone everything about business journey, and that's what this podcast is about as well. So people don't think that it's all walk in the park, because it really isn't. And it's so much harder. And, you know, I'm not saying this to try and talk anyone out of it, because it's a brilliant thing. And, like, you know, you've got that flexibility that you needed and wanted. And it's not just with you, is it? You know, personally, you're like your family. You've needed to support your family. You've gone through such a lot, and you've needed that flexibility. And now you work 2 days a week, don't you, as a rule? And you've actually come especially to talk to me on a different day because I'd been ill, as you could hear. So we had to cancel, didn't we? And you know, that flexibility has been brilliant for you, but and it's something that was brilliant for me and with my young children. But people have been downright horrible and rude to you and trolling you, and that's how you know you've made it in life. Now you've got trolled, but it's not very nice to deal with, is it?
No, and I think the problem is I'm not robust, really. I'm not hard. I'm incredibly sensitive and I'm incredibly emotional. And that's the way that I'm made. And not everybody is going to like us, and that's fine. And I think I always say when I'm writing my content, I'm repelling as much as I'm attracting, because I want the right people to be part of my world. And, you know, we were talking before we came on air, and I said, a lady at an event said, "You think you're really important, don't you?" The people that know me know that it couldn't be further from the truth. I have the same issues, worries that everybody else does. It's just that because I've been in business a long time, I've got that resilience a mile wide to keep getting back up. I think because when you've had a really, really tough journey, you look back and you think, I can do this because I've done that. So the fact that it's taken me, it took me 18 years to learn to walk. You know, I only started walking last year unaided. It's still a novelty. You want to see me running down the road in my walking boots. Well, I can't run yet, but, you know, trotting down the road in my walking boots, because it's still exciting, because I'll go out on my own and I don't need to take my sticks with me.
That is something so many of us just totally take for granted, isn't it? You know, and like, you've been building a business while learning to walk, you know, unbelievable.
We've all got it in us. And I think when your back's up against the wall, you come out fighting. And you find a way through. And that's the thing about running a business, is that when it gets tough, you sit down, you regroup, and you're like, okay, how can I get through this? And it's okay to have those days where you throw your toys out the pram and you're like, I can't do this, and I'm not doing this again, and I'm quitting, and I'm getting a job. And you moan and you cry and you tell your partner that you're not doing it anymore. It's okay to have those days. You've got to have those days, because you've got to let it out. and you've got to get it out.
It's interesting
And then you pick yourself back up.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not from ex-corporate, which is unusual because a lot of people in business, they are. Everybody I think I've ever spoken to that is ex-corporate, everybody, without fail, has said at some point that they considered going back. Everybody, without fail. So if anybody is listening to this right now that is having one of those days of, I can get a job, like, you are not alone. Everybody has thought it.
It's normal. I still think it, even 10 years in.
And
because
what would you advise at that point? You know, when someone's thinking that, okay, I've got to go just get a job, how can they stop themselves doing that at that point, or stop themselves throwing away all their hard work? Because you can be like days from making a success, can't you, of what you're doing?
I think you've got to go and look at your testimonial folder. You've got to have a happy folder of the things that people have said to you. It's not necessarily things that people have written, but you need a folder. Just write on a piece of paper when somebody says to you, like I had a message off one of my masterminders, and I apologise for swearing in advance, but I had a message off one of my masterminders the day, this works, and she was squealing in a voice message. And I write that down and put it on a piece of paper and put it into my folder, because the days that I'm doubting myself, the days that I don't think I want to carry on, when it's too hard, because the thing about running your own business is you've got to keep the income coming. You can't set your foot off the gas. When you've got a client, you're always looking for the next one. It's tough, and you've got to keep that momentum going all the time. And so I can't stress enough about having a folder of the things that you've achieved, how you've helped people, what they've said to you, the difference that you've made, because we all need picking up.
That's brilliant.
We're all going to need picking up.
Yeah, my husband's got a folder. He says Barry, so it's called the Barry is Brilliant folder, which is funny. And I need to do it, because it's so true, isn't it? Because the feeling that you've helped somebody get is fantastic at the time, but especially if they've told you it in person, you haven't got that on an email that you're going to see again soon. If you can bottle it at that moment and put it in your folder, that'd really help, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I asked my clients to do me video testimonials as well. I've got a number of video testimonials, and I'll watch them, because you need to feel it as well as read it.
Yeah.
And that gets me through. And I'm very, very lucky that Ian's heard me say it a million times. And when I'm having a bad day, he's like, yeah, you've got this. He said, you'll do it. You'll he said, I've got no doubt that you'll come up with something else, that you'll find your way. You'll do this, you'll find that. And he's always believes in me completely and utterly. He doesn't have any doubt. So when I'm having a complete meltdown on the floor, he's like, yeah, you'll find your way. You've got this. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay. And then the next day I just get up. And that's the thing, is that when you've lost your faith, you need somebody that believes in you and reminds you of your journey. And whether that's your husband, your partner, your best friend, whether you've got an accountability buddy. I can't stress enough that everybody in business needs a coach or a mentor, and they need somebody that's going to keep them on the straight and narrow, because you're going to have those days. And if you know you're going to struggle on your own, you need to have somebody at the end of the phone that can talk you down.
And it is, isn't it, that it hits you at any random time. It isn't, you don't know when it's going to happen. It's
usually when you're doing really well, because you try to sabotage yourself. A lot of us that are doing well try to sabotage ourselves, because we either think we don't deserve it, or we think it's not going to last, or, well, I've got that client, and you don't actually live in the moment and enjoy it. You don't think, oh, I'm just going to pat myself on the back because I've landed a new client. You're on to the next thing, and you're already beating yourself up.
Oh, no, I mean, I'm the worst for that. I've always had turnover goals in my other business. And at one point I looked back and I thought, well, I passed those as an average. And individual months pass it. Then you're passing it as an average. And then you realise you never celebrated it, because essentially your goal just changes.
And I think that we've got to sit down and look at those goals. So the one thing that I really dislike, and people are not going to agree with me, and that's fine, I can't be doing with that. I need to get to 6 and 7 figures. Yeah. I can't be doing with it.
No, I agree with that.
And the reasons I can't be doing with it...
The business, by the way, just for clarification, perhaps for people listening, they were purely based on overheads and costs, not vanity. Because
I need to understand what those numbers mean. So if somebody's saying to me, I want to hit six figures, and then they break it down and say, I want to pay for the kids to do this, and I want to go on holiday, and I want to learn this, and I want to do that. And they broke it down, and that adds up to six figures. Perfect. Because they're explaining to me why that number means so much to them.
Yeah.
But if it's just a random, I want to say on social media that I've got a 6 or 7 figure business purely for vanity reasons, then you've got to sit down and ask yourself what you're fighting for. Because purely fighting for 6 figures is not going to sustain you when you're on your knees, when you're having a really bad day and you're sobbing and you're thinking, what's driving you to 6 figures? There isn't anything there to drive you, because
it's something negative, isn't it?
You've just got this number that you want to be the same as, the person that you've just seen on social media that day. And I think we also need to put it into context. A lot of the people that are saying that they earn 6, 7 figures, the money isn't in the bank. They haven't earned that in profit.
Yeah.
We've got to put this into context.
Some people do pay to play a lot more than others as well. So if you're doing 6 figures, or just below that threshold as well, if you're doing that with very low costs, that's considerably better than passing 6 figures and taking home far less than you'd have got in a salary.
Exactly. And we have to bear this in mind. I spoke to a lovely lady. I was honoured to be asked to speak at the Federation of Small Businesses boot camp on Monday. And first time I've walked on a stage in 23 years.
That feeling, though, I mean, to be able to then go on and do it after that feeling must have been amazing and difficult. I've achieved something I'm here.
I couldn't wait. I think there was 5 of us speaking on Monday, and we had our rehearsal, and they wanted us to do 10 top tips. And I said, I'm really sorry, but you've got, I can't. And they said, why? And I said, remember them. And, my brain doesn't work that way anymore, sadly. My brain, I can't remember 10 things that I need to stand in front of people and remember and sound professional without using cards. The gentleman that hosts the FSB boot camps is a chap called Dave Sharp. And I've known him for a very long time, because the very first award I won back in 2017, he was on the interview panel. And I was still in my wheelchair at that point. So he's been on the journey with me. And so it was so more emotional, because he was looking at me, and then his eyes started to glaze because he couldn't believe that I was walking towards him. And it was huge. It was a huge day for me. I didn't cry till I got home. I managed to hold it together on the stage.
Which is pretty impressive, isn't it, in itself?
Well, he had my tips, which was really kind of him. So I emailed them to him. And then he asked me questions. So we did an interview on the stage rather than me just standing and speaking. And he prompted me and said, gave me a prompt for each tip so that I could then remember what I needed to say, which worked really well. And everybody did love the interviews part of it, because it broke up the other speakers. But before I got off the stage, he was like, "Now, don't fall off it, will you?" And he sort of broke the ice and said, it's taken a 23 years to get up here. And he said, I don't want you going head first off it.
Imagine how bad he'd have felt at the end of that.
So he helped me off, and everybody was clapping and cheering, and it was lovely. I had the best time. But it's like these milestones, we have to stop and we have to look at them.
Yeah.
And we have to say, it's
really sad if you hadn't have celebrated that achievement, because and that's massive, isn't it? People are going to have those sort of achievements to celebrate all the time, but it's important to know our own achievements for us, isn't it? Because other people don't understand in the same way, do they? Your own achievements, but you've got to break it down so that and then you celebrate them to help with time.
And you've got to stop and pat yourself on the back. I don't think we do it enough. One of the things I've got a group called Women Winning in Business, and it's not about me, it's about them. And like today's post, because it's a Wednesday when we're recording this, it's like, tell us about your week and let's celebrate with you. Let's big you up. Let's talk about the tiny things, because the tiny things matter. The tiny things really matter, because those are the things that lead to the big things. And so we have to celebrate the small steps. And I'm like, come on, tell me about your week. Let's celebrate. Let's talk about it. And I'm their biggest cheerleader. And that's what the group is all about. I want people in there celebrating each other. There was a lady the other day that came in and said, I'm really nervous. There's a lot of people in this group. Didn't really know whether to introduce myself or not, but I just wanted to say hello, I am and I do. Everybody flew at it. Everybody was like, welcome, it's lovely to see you. And that's what I want for this group, is that when you're having a bad day, when you're struggling, when you think you want to quit, when you want to get a job, you come into the group and you tell us, and then we surround you and we lift you back up until you feel like to stand on your own feet.
And it is just so important because, like we said, it's really hard being in business, isn't it? And women particularly, we need that support from each other because we are social creatures. If you try to do it on your own, you've got no sounding board. You know, if you come from corporate, you had KPIs. You know, you had targets all the time. If you don't set them for yourself in business, then it's very difficult. And if you don't celebrate them when you hit them, you would have done if it was someone else had set it.
You do, and you cheer each other on. But it's like we just expect the nth degree from ourselves.
Yeah,
we expect, you know, ridiculous, you know, targets and, you know, levels from ourselves, and we've really got to think about that. You know, we've really got to think about the pressure.
Yeah. And you've felt every pressure and caved to it, haven't you, years ago? You know, and then it makes you more aware than some people of looking after yourself, I assume.
I think that one of the really valid points I want to make today, and if there's one thing that people take away from listening today, is that I really desperately need you to take care of yourselves, because the women that I'm speaking to at the moment that are coming to talk to me are absolutely flogging themselves to death, because especially in the current climate, we're taking that much longer to make a decision to buy. We were talking about this before. 2 years ago, on average, it was 8 to 10 touch points before somebody made a decision to buy. At the moment, it's about 20. Yeah. And that's 20 different interactions with you before they make a decision to buy. And that's because we're all tightening our belts. It doesn't matter how much money you're earning. It doesn't matter which level you're at. We are taking that much longer to make a decision to buy. And therefore, we're having to try harder. We're having to be more visible. We're having to create, you know, do more social posts. We're having to do that many more things that we wouldn't normally do. And I'm seeing so many burnt out, tired women. Now, I burnt myself out from a stroke from working 80 hours a week. The reason that I worked 80 hours a week was because I was trying to love myself. I was trying to like myself. I was trying to like the person that I saw in the mirror. So I wanted to get that next deal. I wanted to land that next client. And it didn't matter how many clients I landed. It didn't matter how much money I made for the company. I was still flogging myself to death because I did not like what I saw, and I was so unhappy as a person. And I've had to do so much work on that over the last few years. I just started to recover, and I just started to get out of my wheelchair, and I just started to get back on my crutches when my husband got sick, which is no great shock because he'd been taking care of me for all of those years. He got glandular fever, then he was made redundant. Then both of my parents were terminally ill at the same time, and they both died within 11 months of each other. I looked after my parents every day for the last 3 years of their lives, and I also had to run a business because my husband had been made redundant and I needed to earn. So it's no great shock that last year I found a tumour in my throat because my body had been under so much stress, looking after, trying to run a business, trying to care for my parents, watching them both die. I was there when they both died, and it was horrific for both of them. And it's no great shock that I grew a tumour and I got really poorly again the beginning of last year. That was my second warning. Yeah. I'm not going to get a third one. No. And that's why, if anybody takes anything away from today, running a business is tough, but what you should never do is push it to the nth degree so that your health is, your health takes a backseat. You've got to see the signs. You've got to listen. And yes, we all need to earn money, but you've got to set your boundaries. You need to be clear on how many hours you're going to work. And you need to put your phone down in the evenings and stop doing social media and spend time with your family. You need to go out with your friends. You need to go for a walk at the end of the day. You've got to take care of yourself. You really have.
I'm terrible with social media. I'm like trying to get better, but it is difficult, isn't it? And I think we don't see it as working because it's social.
and you don't see the signs on your body.
Yeah.
I had 12 viral infections last year. Now, you could just think, I've got a bit of a sniffle. I'm a bit achy. Your body's telling you it's struggling. Yeah. If you're aching all the time, you're struggling to get out of bed in the morning. You're not sleeping very well at night. You're constantly getting poorly. You've got to look at what's going on with your body.
Something is coming.
Because if you keep pushing it and you keep punishing it, something will happen. And that's what you've got to bear in mind.
Yeah.
And most of us may well get through life scot-free. Like we said, I work 2 days a week. People don't believe that I'm the one that pays the bills on 2 days. You can do it. But the reason you can do it is because my back was up against the wall. I had to look after my parents. They needed feeding, they needed washing, they needed medication. They needed me to be there. I had to find a way to earn and take care of them at the same time. And it's amazing that when you've got no other option, you have to find a way.
I was about to say that the having to do it usually does bring something up for you, doesn't it? It's amazing how you can deliver when you have to. It's been really good, obviously, that you do stick to your 1 to 2 days a week. You have to, don't you? And I think we can really see why, because of what's happened. And the second time when you got ill, that was all stuff you had to do it. They were your parents. It wasn't like the first time
it's never choice.
Corporate job and you didn't have to do it, but all that work on yourself in that interim period must have made such a difference then to how you dealt with it the second time.
The way that I look at it is because even though I was getting up and looking after them every day, I still got up early to do yoga. I still got up early to meditate. I still cooked healthy food to take with me. So I choose to believe that it could have been a hell of a lot worse had I not taken care of myself the way that I was. I still did it because I had to do it because they didn't have anybody else. My husband helped me and my brother helped me, but we were on the three of us were on a rotating rota. We were still doing, they couldn't be left. So we were, somebody had to be there all the time. We were doing it for a long time, and anybody that's taking care of their parents will know how hard it is. It's absolutely soul destroying and the other thing to say is that grief, I've been in a fog of grief for the last 18 months that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Nobody prepares you for it. My counsellor tells me it's called compound grief because I lost them both quite close together. But I honestly didn't think I was coming through it. Running a business alongside grief has probably been the hardest thing I've done. And you're probably listening to this thinking, well, that's mental. You come back from a stroke and you learn to walk. That wasn't as hard as this was. I'm not going to lie to you.
It was resilience to just keep going when you really didn't feel it.
Grief is it's just like wading through treacle. And I just completely lost who I was. I think the whole world changed. Yeah, couldn't feel, couldn't think, it was, toughest thing I've ever done. Yeah, toughest thing. I'm coming out the other side now, so I can
just going to say it's nice to see you are coming out the other side, aren't you? And seeing that online and stuff. But to deal with that, you're dealing with all that behind the scenes, and people don't ever realise, do they, with what's going on behind the scenes? And everyone's dealing with something.
They are.
And then some morons, I'm trying to pick a non-swear word, online trolling you for you thinking how great you are and being such a success. It's unbelievable, isn't it? And they're
we bring out their insecurities, don't we? So when we do something or say something and they look at us and think that we are achieving a certain level of success, they resent it and then they want to bring you down because they're hurting or they're thinking something or they don't agree or you're bringing up, one of their insecurities, and so they feel like they've got to lash out, and it does hurt. And I think that I've witnessed in the press at the moment. There's so much press about Kate, and they're bashing her at the moment, and I'm like, why can't we just leave people alone? Why do we have to
go about the whole Be Kind movement? Was it? After, Caroline Flack, and you just think everyone's forgotten that they were supposed to be being kind to.
Look at how they hounded Princess Diana.
Yeah,
And I think we don't know how, just because somebody's turning up every day and doing a video and they go live in their group like I do, doesn't mean I'm not struggling.
No.
I can put on my work hat and I can go live in a group and I can teach my mastermind, because that's what I've learned to do.
Yeah.
And that's like my job, and that's what I do for my job, and that's something it's just intrinsically in me.
Yeah.
But I built that up over time, from the time when I hid in the cupboard. It took me a good few years to be comfortable with showing up as me, because the person that I looked at in the mirror didn't look right. That the left side of my face looked strange to me. It's not the face that I used to have. It looks different. And people look at me and say, well, you just look like, you to us, but I look different to me.
Which is a lot, isn't it, to deal with? Because like you say, you don't recognise you. But all the people like me that have known you recently,
I just look normal to you.
Expect you to look like, because that's how we know you.
Yes.
Because when you were talking about hiding in the cupboard, metaphorically, a lot of us hide in the cupboard, don't we? We're not as visible as we need to be at the moment in business, given that, there are the 27 touch points. And I'm as bad, because I don't. As soon as I get busy with stuff, it's what I leave. Or like, I'll come up with this good idea and I'm driving and, then you've forgotten it by the time it's convenient to do it and things like that. I find it interesting that you actually physically hid in the cupboard instead of metaphorically. But we all do it without getting in the cupboard usually. But with them, because we haven't physically done it, they don't realise that they're doing it to that level already.
No, and I think that it was acceptable not so long ago where you could just pop up on social media and put a post. You could just put out a post, a written post, a post with a selfie, and you could say a few things about yourself, and people would connect on a certain level with you, and that would be sufficient. But it isn't anymore. People need to see you. They need to hear you. They need to hear your opinions. They need to hear your experience. They need to hear from other people what other people think about you. And we have to go to that next level now. And it is hard, especially, when like you said, most people that set up their businesses have come from corporate. And so they're so used to having a massive support team around them. They don't know how to do a lot of these things for themselves. They don't know how to create videos and edit videos and make them look professional. They don't know, how to automate their businesses and schedule their social media and, add payment links onto their Calendly so people can pay for services. And they don't know all of these things. And it's a huge, steep learning curve, and it can be completely and utterly overwhelming.
And it is a lot, isn't it? I mean, you've come from a background in tech, at least. Without that, a lot of people haven't, have they?
No, and I think, my degree has stood me in very good stead, really, because, we had to learn how to create websites in Notepad. Yeah. There was no fancy software at uni. We did. Yeah, it was all coding. You used to sit with a notepad and you used to link your HTML to your CSS file, and you used to have to code the lot from scratch, because that's the way it should be. Don't ask me to code a website. It's not going to happen.
Do you still get asked, don't you?
I do.
For your work, and you don't do it now, do you?
It's really funny, because I don't know if those of you that know Deborah Lutzi. I didn't know Deborah Lutzi till probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. It's spelled Luzi. And a friend of mine, Vicky Chisholm, was speaking at her event. So I went down to London to support her. Had no idea what to expect. Best event I've been to. Best business event I've ever been to. There was about 150 ladies in a theatre. So it was Marylebone Theatre in London. So we were all in like theatre style, sat behind each other, which was really interesting. And her music was on, and she came dancing in. She came dancing into the theatre. She danced up onto the stage, and she was dancing around the stage. And she had such a fabulous energy about her. And the people that she brought in to speak were simply amazing. And I didn't know a soul. I didn't know a soul in that audience. And they got us singing. They got us dancing. We were doing cat impressions. We were doing dog impressions. There was a lady at the end. It was called sound healing. So she got us using our whole bodies and our whole voice to heal. And, by the end of it, I'd made 6 new friends who were all coming to my event on the 27th of April, because we'd been doing that many stupid things that we'd broken the ice and we'd got into the
so that any walls up at this stage, can you?
And we were laughing.
Amazing success, hasn't it? Because I know that you've had to go back to the Belfry and ask for a bigger room.
Yeah, so this is, I'm going to be brutally honest with everybody that's listening. So you might think to yourself, she's got 20,000 followers. She's got a group with nearly 1,000 people in. Doesn't give me confidence. I was still scared to death to put an event on. I still thought nobody would come. I still thought I wouldn't sell a ticket. And Ian was the one that said to me, you've just got to be brave. You've just got to put it out there. What's the worst that can happen? And I was like, yeah, what's the worst that can happen? If nobody buys a ticket, I don't pay the deposit. I don't lose anything. All I actually lose is a bit of, promotion on the event. So I put it out there and I sold a handful. And I thought, is this going to take off? And Ian just kept saying to me, you've got to hold your nerve. Now, we'd mentioned that my dad had passed away. And my dad and I had a number which was 27. And when I put the event out there, I kept seeing it everywhere. Everywhere I looked, I just kept seeing 27. And so I was up.
The event.
And it's the date of the event. And I just said, okay, Dad, okay, I'll do it. I'm gonna be brave. I'm gonna do it. And I just thought, I set a really early bird date because the reason I set the early bird was because I wanted to be able to pay the venue in full when they needed me to pay them. I didn't want to be selling tickets right up until the event, and then I'd got to cover the cost. And then if I didn't sell the tickets, I was left with the bill. So I did a really early bird.
That's very good advice for people as well, isn't it? Because people don't always plan so far in advance.
And I gave myself 2 weeks to sell the early bird tickets, and they sold out in a week. And I was just blown away, really.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because you hear it a lot now that people are like buying last minute.
And I think a lot of people do buy last minute, and I think
they won't be able to your event because they missed the boat.
Well, no, I asked if we could have a bigger room because it's a Saturday. Obviously, the Belfry's a wedding venue because Ian and I got married there. We had our wedding reception there, so they could only give us another room that had got another 10. So I've got 3 left. So yeah, I'm blown away. And the really interesting thing is that a lot of the ladies that are coming are ladies that I've met at events.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that, yes, we do a lot of social media. We're podcasting, we're online, but we've got to get out in front of people. You've got to get out to face-to-face networks as well if you're going to build, and people are going to build that know, like, and trust. Because I would say more than half of the people that are coming, I've met face-to-face recently.
Yeah, that's brilliant advice, isn't it, with people? Because, you do think now, oh, you can do it online, and it isn't the same. I've met.
I can't wait to get in that room. I can't wait to get in the room with that people. I know you've just abandoned me, haven't you?
I've abandoned you because at least for me, I'd already got an event booked the week before on a Saturday, and I'm getting better with my boundaries around my family time.
Which one are you going to on the 20th? Is it Sherry's by any chance?
Yeah,
I'll be on there.
Oh, wicked! So I get to see you on that one as well. And about this Thursday, I've got quite a bit. I'm trying to be really strict on my amount of time out in a month, and actually I've just started doing some corporate work for someone, so it was quite a good timing because if I'd booked all of these events I'd be struggling to deliver the work as well, so that's good. But yeah, you said you're going to do more of these events now.
Yeah, so there's going to be 4.
This comes, there will be those 3 tickets are definitely gone by the time this show.
They're probably, yeah, I would imagine they will be. We're doing a June, a September and a December one, so they're all going to have a theme. So the one in April is abundance, and the other 3 are all going to have a theme. The December one is going to be early December. I don't want to get in amongst the Christmas party crowd, but we are going to have a Christmas party at the December one. So for women who are working on their own and don't get to go, get to have a Christmas party like we all used to in corporate, the event is going to be having a Christmas party on the evening. So I'm going to talk to the Belfry. It is going to
because that Christmas decorations is worth going just for that.
Well, we're gonna have the events in the day, and then we're gonna tie it in with the Christmas party, themed parties there on the evening. So yeah, but yeah, so I'm gonna you've got my Linktree link that goes out with the podcast, and
Yes,
then
it's at the bottom of the stuff, guys.
you can sign up to learn. You'll be the first to learn about the days when they go on sale. And the one thing about the days is it isn't about making money. So as you can imagine, the Belfry is quite expensive, and there's a reason that I picked that venue is because it's just, you feel like you're in a beautiful place. We've got doors that we can go out onto our own little terrace, and hopefully April will be warm enough for us to.
Yeah, that won't be so appealing in December.
No, we won't be going out in December unless we've got our hats, coats and scarves on. But I'd like to think in April, June and September we'll be outside, and they've got a stunning golf course. When we held our wedding reception there, which we've been married 20 years this year, and Westlife were in the bar at our wedding reception.
That's cool.
And yeah.
You come and do a song while we're here.
Well, I was going to ask them because they were playing the NEC. So they were playing that, a few nights at the NEC, and we were going to ask them to nip in and do a rendition. Our guests were like, have you seen who's in the bar? Have you seen who's in the bar? So yeah, it'd be interesting, wouldn't it, if we have one of our days and then they pop up.
Yeah, Westlife are here. What for you would you say is the best thing about having a business?
Flexibility. Yeah, I've got freedom. The one thing that I needed from what's happened in my past was freedom. So like today I'm chatting to you. And then I've got a facial, and then I'll be going out walking, and I pretty much walk every day. And then tomorrow I'm meeting my friends for lunch, and then Saturday and Friday and Saturday I tend to do Pilates, walking, and it gives me the flexibility to get up and what do I want to do today, rather than I've got to sit at my desk. And I do hear from my clients all the time, well, yeah, you've shed loads of followers, and it's all right for you to sell out your mastermind and your programs. My clients do as well, and they haven't got as many followers as me. So it isn't about followers. It isn't about the number of people that are following you. You can have the business you want, and you can live the life that you want. Sometimes we just need somebody to show us how, and that's what
you do, isn't it? You show them how to do it, and you're leading from the front with that, aren't you? Which is fantastic. I think one of the things, because nearly everyone I speak to also wants flexibility in their business, and I think at the start it's one of the first things that actually goes.
Yeah, and I think that I will give you a tip, and that is one specific group of people, one solution. That's the solution, I mean service or product. One platform, one outcome. That's what you've got to focus on. Stop trying to be everything to everybody.
Yeah.
When you first start your business and you're trying to get to six, you're aiming to get up to six figures, you've got to have a really specific group of people, focus on one service or one product, one platform, one outcome. I nailed LinkedIn before I moved on to the next. It's only now that I'm working on Facebook. I just copy and paste onto Instagram. I don't put any effort in at all. The majority of my effort goes into LinkedIn every morning and Facebook. So you've got to stop spreading yourself too thin. Ladies I spoke to at the FSB boot camp on Monday, they've got shed loads of services and they're trying to sell all of them at the same time.
Yeah.
I would leave you with one thing, and that is think about yourself as a consumer. If you're buying from somebody, whether it's in your personal life or in business, think about the person that you're going to buy from. I had a visibility call with a lady that said, I want to do my corporate work, but I want to run my business as well. And I said to her, okay, you're sat in front of me now. If I said to you that I work in corporate 3 days a week and I only work in my business 2 days a week, would you buy from me? And she said no. And I said, why not? And she said, because you're not concentrating on me and what I do in my business. And I said, and that's what I'm going to leave you with. At the moment, when we're being incredibly careful with our money, the person that we're going to give the money to is the person that totally and utterly understands the solution that we need. And most women that I speak to, they'll tell me they've got a niche. It's never ever specific enough. It's a nice to have niche. And what I mean by a nice to have niche is there's a lady that came to me and said, I photograph women in business so that they can put their personal brand and increase their visibility. And I went, nice to have.
Yeah.
She said, what do you mean nice to have? And I said, I put my photos off for 3 years. I said, I knew I needed it, but there was no urgency to buy. I knew that I would buy it at some point, and you're not going to get consistent income from nice to have.
Yeah.
And that's what I want people to think about with their niche, is that It's at the core of your business. Forget planning, forget strategy, forget your value ladder. If you don't get your niche right, if it's a nice to have niche, you're not going to create consistent income into your business.
And niching, while we're on the subject, is something that just takes a long time to get right, doesn't it? Because you don't focus on it enough.
You're in tech like me. I use SEO tech and the research phase of SEO to validate the niche. So we back it up with data.
Yeah, that's people that aren't data driven and they don't so obviously
they need to learn it.
Yeah, you know that I've been doing blogging to rank workshops and everybody hates the keyword research stage, but
it's easy.
Saves you wasting time just writing blogs that no one's going to read.
I say that you've got to do competitive research, you've got to do industry research, and you've got to do keyword research, and those three are going to help you to validate your niche. And that's what I do. Is I was never ever going to do all of that, computer science and SEO work without bringing it into my business in some way, shape, or form. And basically, what keyword research is telling you is how your audience think and buy. That's basically what it's doing, and you're using that to make sure that there is supply and demand for your niche. And
yeah, I mean, interestingly, like when you talk about that, I talk quite a lot about your own Google behaviour, because people, when they're trying to figure out what they do with Google, and then they'll go, oh, well, I want to rank for anxiety, for example. You haven't got to hope, They're searched for anxiety. Have you gone to Google and gone anxiety? No, because you're not going to
ask it a question, and it's always a specific question. And
that's what you write to.
And also, you haven't got a hope in hell as a small business of ranking for high volume keywords, so don't even bother.
No, you're going, oh, let's have anxiety with the NHS. Yeah, okay.
I'm just like, you're a very, very tiny fish in a huge pond. You've got to break it down. You've really got to break it down. I was working for a company called, IGEM, the energy industry regulator, and they wanted to put out about educating people about hydrogen as a fuel source. And because it was a brand new website, we couldn't go with high volumes. We've got to find the decent volumes that are relevant with the low search difficulties. And in an industry like that, they're changing every 5 minutes, and it's the hardest thing to do. But we still have to do it. Because if they're going to get the visibility for the website straight off the bat, I've got to find low search difficulty terms that have got a decent amount of volume. And it's the same with your niche. Is that you've got to find the low search difficulties. And what I mean by low search difficulty, for those that don't understand what one is that keywords that you want to rank for search difficulty from 0 to 100, and the lower you are down between 0 and 30. That means that not many people are trying to be visible for those keywords, and so you've got more of a chance of standing out in that pond. And that's what we use when we're doing the niching, is because we need to make sure that they're using their audience's words back at them because we can throw all the words in the sun, under the sun, about what how we do what we do, but we've got to use our audience's words back at them. We can't just use the words that we think. We've got to use their words.
And it does make a massive difference, doesn't it? It's funny because, like, in my engraving business, I think, oh, I haven't done any sales work. No, but we get inquiries every single day from the website, so we don't need to all the time. You haven't to be that proactive because you've done it. And, when you're busy doing other stuff, you're still getting inbound inquiries all the time. And it is really important, isn't it, for a business? Because sales is such a huge part of it, but it doesn't all have to be active selling, does it? Because you've done that work and it's pulling people to you already.
I talked about it on Monday, and I said to them that the reason why SEO is so profitable for your business is because they've already decided that they need the solution, they're looking for it. Yeah. And you haven't got to convince them like you have on social media. Yeah, so on social media, you're trying to attract people.
Points, aren't you? That 20 might come down, might half, based on the fact that they actually know that they're really looking for that thing.
Exactly. And also, we've got to remember that it isn't just about Google. Everywhere there's a channel that's got a search bar, you need to be, optimizing your profiles. You need to be putting keywords in your headlines, in your calls to action, in your bios. This isn't, YouTube's the second biggest search engine. You need to be optimizing your videos as well. You need to be found where your audience is looking for you. So if your audience is on LinkedIn, you need to be optimizing your profiles. Yeah. You need to have keywords in your headlines. They need to be in your featured section. They need to be in your bio. They need to be in your link at the top. So it's make sure that you're found, because LinkedIn people are searching for you. So it's not just about Google. So if people are listening and thinking, I haven't got a website, don't use it as an excuse.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're doing the research and making sure that people are going to find you. And don't fall into the mistake that everybody falls into, that you think, well, my audience are looking for this, and I know that they're going to be looking for me from that. I hear that all day, every day. I know how my audience are looking for me. No, you don't. You think you do.
Yeah.
But you don't actually.
You've got to base it on the fact that nobody knows you exist. Because if that's like starting point, people don't know your name. They don't know what you know. They're looking for a thing, and they're looking for someone to do that thing. They don't know you exist, so they're not going to look for you by name.
Yeah, and you've got to go and find out how they're looking for the thing that you do. Don't just assume you know. Don't just think, well, it's obvious, because it isn't. You know, I the reason that I stopped doing SEO was because I would get people all the time saying to me, I need you to add some keywords into my website, and the answer would always be no.
Yeah.
And they would say to me, why? And I would say, well, you need a niche, you need a business plan, you need a strategy, you need a value ladder, you need to tell me how you're going to grow your business, you need to tell me what your visibility strategy is and what you want to focus on, what do you want to grow over the next 6 months. If you can't tell me that, how can I then do the research to then add keywords into your blogs and your website structure and your social media content?
Yeah,
and they'll be like,
a much bigger piece of work, doesn't it, than what they think?
It's a huge piece of work, because what they're actually saying is they don't want us to add keywords into the website. What they're actually saying is, I want more clients and I want more money.
Yeah,
more clients than you want. Yeah, yeah. If you want more clients and more money, then you've got to do all of those steps first. And if we don't do that, then what will happen is you just throw some high volume keywords into your website. You'll get some traffic, but they won't stay. It won't last. They'll click out. You'll lose your visibility, and you're not going to get what you wanted. And that's the reason why I stopped doing it, was because people could not see the bigger picture. They did not see that all of this work went into it. If you want the results that you want, you've got to do a huge piece of work. You can't just do a little bit of keyword research, throw it into the structure of a web page, throw it into a blog and hope for the best. You've got to be consistent. You've got to keep at it, and you've got to keep doing it. And I think it comes down to what we were saying at the top about quick fixes. You know, so many people want to get to 6 figures and 7 figures.
Because if you put anything on any of the channels with that sort of heading of I can teach you to make 6 figures in 10 minutes, you know, then it's very popular, isn't it? But if they just listen to that thing you said, you've just taught them it in like 1 minute. So
yeah, you can't. There's no quick fix, sadly. You know, if there was, we'd all be millionaires, wouldn't we?
And that is consistency, isn't it, as well? And the consistency in doing it, but also in your message, and consistency in how you're putting down yourself. You can't say you're going to sell high-end services and then not portray that and things like that. It's just...
You've got to keep showing up. I mean, it's about consistency. So if you post on LinkedIn 3 times a week, you post on LinkedIn 3 times a week. You can't post once the 1 week and then 6 times the next and then 2 the week after that. You've got to consistently show up. And it's the same with blogging. You know, if you're going to put out a blog once a month, put a blog out once a month. If you're going to do it once a fortnight, do it once a fortnight. You cannot be inconsistent if you want to increase your visibility and you want people to see you. I get told all the time, you're everywhere. I'm not. You know, I schedule my group content. I schedule my Facebook page and my Instagram page content on a Sunday night. So Sunday night is my content night. I write long form and then I trim it. So I think about, okay, this week, what's my goal? What do I want to achieve this week? I write long form, trim it for short, and then I schedule it. And then for my Facebook profile and my LinkedIn, it's already written. But I've got to do that engagement before and after. So every day before I post on LinkedIn, I do 30 minutes engagement. And I engage with the people that I want to see my content. I engage with my dream clients. I engage with the people that I want to work with me. Then when I post, they see my content, and then I engage for 30 minutes after. So every morning I spend an hour on LinkedIn, the days that I post. Yeah. Right, and I don't do every day, but the days that I post, I'll do an hour, because you cannot just post and hope for the best. You can't hope that people are going to see it. You've got to do the engagement. And
it's great advice, isn't it, for people? I think it's just that thing of almost realising you've got to just do it properly. You know, you can't just throw 7 mud at the wall and hope it sticks. You've got to...
Like anything in life though, isn't it? Yeah. When you're growing a baby, it takes 9 months. Can't just do it in 2 seconds flat. When you,
But wouldn't it be nice if you could?
it would. And gaining a degree takes 3 years. Everything worthwhile in life takes time, doesn't it? We've chatted forever, haven't we?
Still, yes. But I've put in the links below how people can follow you, because obviously, it doesn't take a genius. You've listened to this. She's worthwhile following, and 20,000 other people do it on LinkedIn, so you need to find her.
Thank you. I'd love to have you. You'd be very, very welcome.
So yes, go find her and find out there'll be a link with the events as well as they come up. So have you got a waiting list for those?
Yeah, I've got a wait list they sign up to. I'll pop it in my link tree so that they can sign up to learn more about them. So it's just called Women Winning in Business Days, and you sign up to that and you'll be the first to know when they go live.
It's called Women Winning in Business. So I've got to ask you, is it just for women?
We've got men in there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know that there's a bloke in there.
Yeah, Mike is my biggest fan.
Yeah,
and he works.
He's a big fan.
Yeah, he works with women in business, and I think there's a couple of men that are coming in. So there's Gus Bandal's coming in, and who else was I talking to? Paul Horn's coming in, and the reason they're allowed in is because they're kind, they're generous, and I love them as people. So I know that a lot of women are scared of working with men because they can be a little bit, in my working career, they've been incredibly condescending, put me down, trying to tell me how to do my job. They come across as know-it-alls. So the men that come into the group are men that I personally know and have relationships with. And if they're huge supporters of women, they're allowed in. So yeah, you do that.
And then my whole background's working in a male environment. So for me,
that's mine.
Yeah, it's like I've always worked with men, but
yeah, I shied away from them because I had such a terrible time in corporate with men. I had an awful time, but now I'm being brave. Like FSB on Monday was mainly men. There was a lot of women there, but it was mainly men.
It's nice, isn't it, that you're saying, like, some of the men you know really well, that they're really nice, and you'd like them in your group because
they're huge supporters of women,
and
and followed me on my journey. And so, if they're idiots, I wouldn't let them in. But then again, if they're unkind women, I wouldn't let them in. So it's about being kind, it's about being supportive, it's about lifting each other up. Mike is in my mastermind, and he's the biggest supporter in our WhatsApp feed. Yeah, he's all, every time they post, he's there before I get there.
Fantastic, isn't it?
He's lifting them up. He's lifting them up, and he said on the mastermind on Tuesday, men are idiots. He's the first one submitting.
Bless him, he's a good egg. When the women are having issues and they can go, men are idiots, and they go, thanks. That made me feel better.
And he's great at giving a male perspective, because we need it. So yeah,
no, it is good, isn't it? As well, to have that background. But thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely.
We could talk all day, but we could do that to you one day. Maybe we'll do a marathon. We'll have that's a business.
So yeah, we don't want to bore you to death for the next 3 hours.
No, if you can follow the podcast, then you'll know when stuff is coming. But for now, we'll say bye to Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Many Hats of Business, the podcast. Your support means a lot to me. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with your business friends, as they may find it useful too. If you hit the follow button, you'll be first to know when a new episode lands. See you next time.